Facebook. This is the first time I am doing this. I'm super excited. As you guys all know, today was/is the launch day for Blackout, and right now I have the #2 book in the country. It pains me to say #2 book only because my book is second to Bob Woodward's book. I just don't like the fact that a treacherous American has the #1 spot. So hopefully in doing this live signing, by the end of it, you guys will all be going to buy the book and I will be in the #1 spot. The live signing is really for people who are asking so many questions. How do I get a copy that's signed? Well, there's two ways you can do that. First off, this is being hosted by Premier Collectibles. So if you go to Premier Collectibles, www.premiercollectibles.com/blackout, you can get a signed copy. For those of you that already have a copy and are like, but mine isn't signed, you can head to CandaceOwens.com and you can buy just the insert that I've been signing all day, and you can stick it inside of your book, so you're good either way. But today, these books, if you do not have a copy, we have to get me to #1. We cannot let Bob Woodward be #1. You guys know I am being so true right now, and I'm telling the truth. So I'm going to sign some books. I've got my manager here, Gina, somewhere in the background running around.
Hi.
And she's going to ask me some questions that you guys have written in and that you're writing. Oh, yeah, I can see your comments. That's the best. Sierra, I love you too. And Steve, let's go. I love that. I love the energy here. All right, so Gina is going to ask me some of the questions. I have not read them ahead of time, so I'm going to answer them on the spot. I hope you guys are not putting anything tricky. Gina, are you ready? First, come say hi, Gina. They're going to think you're like the voice of God.
Hi, I'm a real person.
Gina's my manager. She makes everything happen. It's super crazy. All right, let's do some live questions and answering. Let's go.
Okay, first one. How were you raised politically and faith-wise? You are an amazing woman, one even my daughters look up to.
That's actually a very sweet question. All of that is actually answered in chapter 1 or 2 of this book, which the chapter title is called On Conservatism. And I talk about the roots of my conservatism, which I didn't realize were conservative roots. I grew up in my grandparents' household. They were extremely, extremely Christian. We had to read the Bible every morning at breakfast, and I talk a lot about those roots, which I tried to run away from in my early adulthood when I was living a more liberal life. It was really important for me with this book to give you guys a piece of me that you haven't seen. In many ways, we feel, me and my family, that the media has created almost a caricature of me, and people totally just mistake the person that I am. I'm definitely a lot funnier than people. I think they see me as someone who's super stern and serious all the time, and I have the biggest sense of humor. I grew up very close to my cousins, a very religious household. My grandfather, if we ever did anything wrong, the punishment was that we were going to be incorporated into a prayer. And it was, to me as a child growing up, was the worst possible thing to have my grandfather call God on me by incorporating us into a prayer. So I talk about that. Politically, I was apolitical, and I'm glad you asked the question because it's one of the biggest misconceptions about me. For whatever reason, people think that I used to be a Democrat, as in used to vote Democrat, and that's not true. So you'll see the leftists say, oh, she was a Democrat until she realized there was money on the Republican side. I was a liberal, and I believed in all of the liberal ideologies, but I was apolitical. I had never voted, and had just thought that Republicans were all racist and that conservatives were all backwards, all of the typical hoopla that kind of goes, it's kind of written into the DNA of the education system. So anyways, that whole backstory is also in this book. So whoever asked that question, right now, Blackout, buy it. I want to sell a lot of books so I can take Bob Woodward's spot, because I should be #1, not a treacherous person, not an anti-American treacherous person should have the #1 spot. It should be me, okay? Next question.
How do you picture America 10 years from now? Realistically, not ideally. Also, I love you.
I think I am super optimistic about the direction that the country is going in. I know it can seem crazy when you pop onto Facebook and you see, another police video or rioting or looting and all of these things. But I think that what we're really seeing is that there's a fight for the soul of America, and I think that conservatives are winning. And the reason why the left is getting more and more extreme is because they know that we're winning. So I always say what we're seeing is the last squeals of a dying animal, and I know that I will raise my child in a in America that looks a lot more like the America that I grew up in. I have totally romanticized the 90s. So if you talk to me, I'm always like, it's going to be like the 90s. I feel like everybody got along in the 90s. There wasn't all this crazy race stuff. My dad had a beeper. Things were cool, you know? Bring back the beeper decade. I'm just trying to bring back the beeper. And I do think that more than anything, people are engaged in politics, for better or for worse, and are aware that America is being threatened by socialism. So I'm optimistic about the future of America. And that's all I can say about that. So you should be optimistic too, because I'm the one taking all the bullets. And did I mention that Bob Woodward is number one and I'm not? So yeah, if I can have a positive attitude today, so should you. Next question.
You awake, open your eyes. Your first thought of the day is,
where's my cat? Is she sleeping comfortably? It's the answer for those of you that don't know, and I hope this is not going to upset people. I'm obsessed with my cat. She's a big part of my life. So yeah, first thought when I wake up is probably something super mundane, like where's my cat? My mornings usually consist of my husband, who is British, makes me tea. He's supposed to be on this live signing with me, but he's actually across the pond in the UK. He always makes me tea and a piece of toast, and we go over the news of the day. He is much more like jump up in the morning. By the time I get up, he's done, like, he's ran 8 miles. He just loves the mornings. He's all about the mornings. He can like conquer the world before 7 a.m. And I'm a bit slower to rise. We're both morning people, but he's definitely on the high end of the morning people, and I'm on the lower rung of that. So I would say, yeah, politics would be the first discussion I always have. He'll read The Spectator in the UK, and we'll just kind of talk about the stories of the day, and it's kind of like a nice way to wake up with tea and a political discussion with your husband and your cat going meow, 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 which means, for those of you that don't speak fluent cat, feed me right now or I'm going to freak out. Next question.
How can a 13-year-old make a difference in conservative America?
I hate to put the onus on 13-year-olds, but I think right now what we're seeing, especially with the education system and it being just so wrought with corruption and brainwashing, for the 13-year-olds that are willing to have that battle with their schools, and you know, younger or a bit older, like I think what Nicholas Salmon did was one of the bravest things that's been done in a very long time, and it shows you that, you know, you have the power to fight back against the system. If your parents are supportive of your conservative beliefs, don't just sit there in class when they're telling you, you know, that you have to believe this ideology when you know that it's fundamentally wrong. I've seen clips of kids in school with their smartphones, and you'll see a teacher telling them that Trump is backwards and they shouldn't be supporting the president, and kind of dripping with this anti-American sentiment. The schools will keep doing this until the students and the parents speak up. And the truth is that the schools are fearful of, you know, getting in trouble, getting sued. And it seems ridiculous to say that you should find, you know, your courage to speak up and say, this is wrong, this makes me feel uncomfortable, and loop your parents into the discussion, and hopefully your parents will be supportive of you. You know, just having a right to have a different idea and a different opinion. You shouldn't feel threatened into positions by your administrators and your teachers. And I think between the students and the parents, we should be fighting that war with more sincerity than we have been in the past. So I hope that answers your question. Next question.
What are you most excited about motherhood?
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is going to sound super lame, but I am so excited to decorate the nursery. It is just, I didn't even know this was one of my biggest dreams, and it is one of my biggest dreams. I'm already very into interior design. And so it sort of follows that I would love to do this. It's like a side passion of mine, a hobby, whatever you want to call it creatively. I love to design things, and I just think, what more fun can you have than designing a baby's room? Now, you might think, did you just reduce your child to an episode of HGTV? No, I'm excited about also having a baby, but I am super excited about designing the nursery, because that's going to be awesome. And I just love looking at the pictures, and you can buy everything mini. Everything mini is cute. Like, even if it's like a mini Reese's, you're like, oh, it's a little Reese's, you know? So I get to buy everything mini, and I'm really excited about that. Like, it's just the nursery. So I'm sorry, this should have been much deeper. It should have been like bonding, my child's first step. but I got the nursery right now. I'll update you if that changes. Next question.
As someone who is also married.
Oh wait, Devin, I just saw your post about saying you just got my book on Amazon. Thank you so much. I'll keep popping up and looking at this to see who else is buying the book as we speak. Okay, next.
As someone who is also married to someone from the UK/England, what have been the biggest political and cultural differences you've observed between our two cultures?
Biggest differences between the UK and America. My husband likes to say he speaks both American and English. And I'm always getting bashed for saying literally and rhetoric because I now have adopted that from my husband. But to be honest, I would say the biggest difference is that they are remarkably polite there. There is like a British etiquette, and I stepping into that world, I thought this is really interesting. Like, you know, they really care about where your knives and your forks are, and it's just a totally different culture, and it is something that I love. I step inside of. I know that the Brits, especially with the whole debacle between Meghan Markle and Harry going on, I feel like maybe someone like Meghan Markle didn't love that culture, and I absolutely loved it. But I'm a person that can jump into anyone's culture and really appreciate it. And I just love that they have tea time, like, you know, and that they keep this sort of, I don't want to say antiquated. It is antiquated, actually, but I love antiques. I think antiques are beautiful. I think that America tends to, you know, wash away sometimes older traditions. We're kind of like, oh, there's an old building, let's tear it down and put something new and shiny up. And in England, it's quite the opposite, where they preserve a lot of elements of their older culture because they're obviously a lot older than we are. So that was something that is still different. When I'm there, I'm totally, I'm still amazed. I love London. My husband was born and raised in London. I love the UK. I love the Brits. And we're just sort of like cousins on opposite side of the pond. So we have way more in common than we have separate. Next question.
My wife and I are white, and we have adopted black twins, which are 3 years old right now. Do you have any advice going forward in these crazy times to make as few mistakes as possible?
Okay, white, you've adopted a black child. Do not make them feel like they have to, don't raise a Colin Kaepernick. That's my first advice. I think what's important is not to kind of fall into this culture of feeling like you have to have a discussion with your child about the color of their skin, or like have a discussion with them about race. I think there's so much of that, like, I have a black child and we had to sit down and have the conversation, and it's like, no, because the truth is kids don't see color. All of that stuff is taught. And right now we have a society that's hyper-racialized, hypersensitive, and constantly trying to teach kids to see differences and see colors. And I think that is horrible. That's just not the way children's mind works. Those are the way that like nefarious adults' minds work. And I think the most beautiful thing you can do is just to raise your child like they're your child. Like you think they look just like you and act like you, and that's the gift that you can give to the world, is to raise someone who doesn't see color. So I'm a person that obviously doesn't see a difference between white people and black people, which drives people crazy because they need me to see myself as a black woman. But I see myself as an American, and I think it's beautiful that you guys adopted someone that doesn't look like you exactly in terms of skin color, but that doesn't mean anything. You guys are going to be great parents, so congratulations, because I know adoption is a really tough process.
Would you rule out a future run for high office? I hope you would consider it.
I get this question all the time, and I used to say no, and now I say what our great president said years ago, when he said, I think he said decades ago, you know, if I really felt that my country needed me and there was no one else to do the job, I would do it. It's not a goal of mine, you know, and I'm talking specifically about presidency because I don't think I would run to be in Congress. But if I felt like we were at a point in America where it was really needed, then I would run, because I would much, but I see holding the office of president as a sacrifice. I feel like that question is like, would you ever want to go to war, right? And the answer is like, if there's somebody who desires to go to war, like, I don't know if that's great. But for me, I hope that we have viable candidates and America's in a great direction, and there's someone else that can do it and be happy. But I would only do it if I felt like you guys really needed a President Owens farmer. So there you go.
Would you consider establishing a website like Tatum Report as a database we can point to for your knowledge and research?
Yes, actually, I saw Brandon Tatum 2 days ago because you know he is my partner at Blexit. I love Brandon Tatum. I love a Tatum Report. Blexit organization was started with me and Brandon Tatum, and we have been in this fight together. And he and I were just talking about how he can expand what he's doing at the Tatum Report and make it bigger and better. And just, more resources. So we're all about expanding and working together. When you get into politics, you realize that it's hard. A lot of people have ego. And Brandon Tatum is not one of those people. He has literally been my brother since I got into this. So the answer is yes, 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 yes.
What is it like being a female voice for conservatives?
It's hard. There's actually not that many female voices in conservatism. And I realized that especially doing my podcast, we would constantly want to have more females on, but it was kind of hard to mine that. And I think there's a lot of reasons, men tend to go to war. So it's like not the best thing for us to want to be out there and taking a bunch of bullets and being screamed at, especially when we have this amazing responsibility of motherhood, raising your children. So I think it just kind of happens naturally. But I love it. I mean, I'm a very, very optimistic person. I absolutely love it. I love that my voice is different. I love that I have different perspectives. And again, going back to what I said earlier, I just simply love what I do. So, I think it's fun. I think it's great. I think it's a blessing to be where I'm at. Guys, Bob Woodward is still #1 and my book is #2. Please go just buy this book. If you want a signed copy, go to premiercollectibles.com/blackbook. Shannon just ordered. Thank you, Shannon, so much.
So did Kathy.
Kathy just ordered. Thank you, Kathy, so much. But guys, this is unacceptable. I can't be behind Bob Woodward. My whole life is being ruined on the internet right now. I'm gonna cry. Please take me to #1. Thank you guys so much. Let's go to another question.
Where do you stand on different issues within the LGBT community?
I think everybody knows where I stand on the trans stuff. I am a, vocal non-supporter of what I call the trans agenda, which is people that are trying to push through policies in school, telling kids they can pick their gender, confusing children. Anything that involves children, I am like a warrior crazy person. I think politics has gotten too far and that we're seeing this sort of pollution, story time, drag time, all that stuff. I've talked extensively about that stuff via my podcast. So I definitely suggest you have a look at that. And I, of course, cover some of that in my book. So buy it and you will know where I stand. Was that a good, guys? Buy it. Cat!
There she is.
Celeb appearance. Just when you thought you were just getting me, now you've got Bear. Buy Mommy's book. Buy Mommy's book. Please buy it because she needs to buy me more stuff. Bear, that's not very nice. All right. Anyways, this is the cat that I was talking about. That first thing in the morning, I check and see if she's alive and happy and if she's hungry.
This is Candace's boss.
And she is the boss of everything. Meow, 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 meow. Okay, she hates me for this. I'm going to stop this now. Love you, love you, love you.
Here's a good one.
Another question.
How do you convert the heaviness of what you do, see, and deal with into positivity on a day-to-day basis?
Working out. Team fitness. I am a big believer in working out. Gina, my manager, by the way, is like sick at fitness. So don't follow her because you'll just get frustrated with yourself. I'm actually going to unfollow her on Instagram. But yeah, fitness is a big part of my life. Running. My husband, I got into running. My husband ran 3 Ironmen before meeting me. He's going to run a 4th one. And he was just like, I run. And I used to do all different things like, yoga, bar method. And I started picking up running and I just loved it because you can do it anywhere. You don't need to find a studio to do it. So I still, 6 months pregnant, run 5 miles a day, 4 to 5 miles a day. And the endorphins, the high after you run is just the best thing in the entire world. And I encourage any person, you don't have to just be in politics and dealing with the crazies. You can be in anything. I don't care if you have to be in an office sitting in front of a computer all day. Run, work out, walk even. Some days if I really don't feel like running, I will just walk 5 miles and I will put on music. I'll call my family. It is incredible how just moving your body just contributes to your overall mental health. And then the other thing is that I am pregnant and having the best pregnancy ever. And so I feel like I'm just walking with ecstasy in my belly. I'm just like the happiest person. It is just, I can't imagine me being in a bad mood. I'm like, I don't even want to take this baby out of me because it's just been the best experience. No sickness, no tiredness, extra energy. So yeah, work out and be pregnant. Those are my answers. Next question.
How do you combat high school and college indoctrination that the left is forcing upon us?
That is a really tough question. I kind of, mentioned earlier about actually fighting back, and I had too many people say like, "Oh, it happens," but I'm afraid to say something, and it's like, that's the problem. You need to speak up and you need to speak out. I was happy to be my feminist 101 teacher's worst nightmare, and I constantly pushed back on her, and was always in trouble, and it pained her to give me an A minus. I know it did, but I knew she was indoctrinating me, and I challenged her because a lot of these professors and teachers are completely spineless, and they think that their opinions are authoritative, and they're not. Their facts are authoritative, but not their opinions. And it's just, I just encourage people to always speak out, and if you're not willing to talk to your parents, professors, department heads. They don't want the drama of having to deal with students that are unhappy. They're always at risk of being sued for certain discriminations, and they are, quite frankly, discriminating against conservatives on a regular basis. So there's that. Next question.
Do you think couples need to agree on politics?
No, in a normal world, absolutely not. I think couples can disagree on politics, and I know couples that do. I think that in this time in particular, it's just, we really have different opinions on the left and on the right. I have tons of friends that are liberals, but they're moderate liberals, so they would never be supporting, they're not anti-police, they don't believe in rioting and looting as a form of expression. I think if you are a far leftist, it would be almost impossible to reconcile those differences. You either want America to burn or you don't. But if you're a moderate liberal and you're like, hey, I don't like Trump, but I also know that we need police, then of course, I don't see why people can't be in relationships. Usually by the end of it, end up on the same side anyways, because what is marriage but one long reconciliation, one wrong moderation. And so I would say you definitely at some point in your relationship, you kind of just start to agree on everything, because that's what marriage is. Next question.
Congrats, Candace. What chapter in the book did you enjoy writing the most?
Easy. My favorite chapter in the book is on slavery, which is chapter 11. And it was my favorite to write because it flew out of my fingers. It was like pent up inside of me because people kept saying, Candace, you can't use the phrase Democrat Plantation. Even Simon & Schuster, who I love, my publisher, Natasha, you're probably watching somewhere. I love Natasha. But the higher ups were very like, oh, Candace can't name it how Black America can make its second escape from a Democrat plantation. And I was like, no, I want to call it a Democrat plantation. Leave it there. Leave it. And so that phrase, Democrat plantation, made people uncomfortable. And I finally got to defend that phrase and use the research and analyze what the slavery plantation was in the South when the Democrats had the plantations, because it was the Democrats that owned the slaves, and how they were able to maintain that system of slavery, and then to correlate it directly to what I believe is a mental plantation that Black Americans are on today. So I just got to finally deliver the points in my thesis, and I was just waiting to do it for years. So On Slavery is easily my favorite chapter. And then I would say second would be the On Conservatism, because I got to talk about my grandparents, and they mean the absolute world to me. People always ask me oh, I'd hate to get into an argument with Candace, well, who could transform Candace's mind? My Achilles heel, my grandmother passed in 2013. My grandfather is still alive, and he is my Achilles heel. So if anything upsets my grandfather, I'm try to transform my pain immediately, because I just respect him and love him so deeply. So that's always he can get me feeling different ways about different topics, but just turns out we agree on everything, so it's okay.
How much has Thomas Sowell impacted your thinking along with other Black conservatives?
Gosh, Thomas Sowell has impacted my thinking like 200,000%. He brought me to my awakening. I'm grateful to him. I give it all to him. I have read an infinite amount of Thomas Sowell books. I can't get enough of him, and I hope I get to meet him. He gave me my life back, and I hear so many people and Black Americans that say that to me today, like, Candace, thank you for giving me my life back. It's a weird phrase to hear, giving me my life back. But when you wake up to the lies of the left and you realize that you've been conditioned to be a victim, that you've been conditioned to hate, you've been conditioned to see oppression everywhere, to have this Marxist belief and to think that everything around you is about oppression, and then suddenly someone goes, actually, you don't have to carry that weight of victimhood. Like, actually, you can just set that down and you can run this race as God intended you to and run it freely. You literally feel like someone gave you your life back, like you've been released from prison, and you go, oh my God, I can just love this person, even though this person has different beliefs than me. I can hang out with Trump supporters. I can do whatever. It's literally like getting your life back. You can love, period. You don't have to hate and see misery everywhere around you. Thomas Sowell gifted me that, right? And then I now get to gift that to so many other people. I don't have to be upset about men, upset about white people, upset about police. I mean, living as a leftist, it's exhausting, right? Like, you just every day have to wake up and find something you're upset with and that you're not okay with and that you think is unjust. And that is just not healthy for anybody. And when I saw the truth with the real statistics and the real data, it was like exhaling after not even realizing that I had been holding my breath for years. And then suddenly I got to go, and that's what I hope I do to so many other people, that this book does to so many people who just go, that's right, I don't have to be a victim. I get to be a victor. And the best way I could also be a victor would be if you bought my book right now so I could beat Bob Woodward, because I am being victimized by him being on top of me as the number one book. I'm number 2. I want number 1. Buy it right now. Head to premiercollectibles.com/blackout. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it anywhere. And it's like green eggs and ham. You can read it on a train, on a plane, everywhere. Next question.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh my gosh. I have stopped where am I going to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, because life has just thrown me so many curveballs. There's that old expression, you tell God your plans and he laughs, and God has been cracking up at me with my plans. So I leave it to him. This journey has been amazing. And now I see I was always a part of a greater plan, things that didn't make sense to me when I was younger. Why am I living through this? I talk about that a lot in this book, my personal story, my victimhood moment. Why is this happening to me? And then today, decades later, I'm like, thank goodness this happened to me. I'm so happy that I went through these horrible moments, because it shaped immutable characteristics within me. And I think that I have realized that I will go through things as God intends, and I know that I will land on my 2 feet and trust his plans greater than mine. So no idea about where I'll be in 5 years.
What do inner city schools have to do in order to help Black America?
We need the teachers to start talking about school choice. We have to abolish these teacher unions. These teacher unions are horrible. There's no reason that you should be districted to go somewhere because of where you live. Parents should be of the authority in their children's lives, not the government. They should be able to shop for schools and say, here's a voucher. I want my kid to go to this school because it's better, not because my kid lives on this street. And for some reason, there are so many minorities and people in the inner cities that don't know this is all a plausibility that's being blocked by Democrats with their ridiculous lies about what school choice is, what school vouchers are. And unfortunately, we have this ignorance upon the inner cities that they don't realize they don't need to have this barrier. They can overcome this barrier very easily. And they should be asking these politicians that run these deplorable inner cities why they're stopping their children from these amazing opportunities. So that would be my answer to that one.
What convinced you to leave the Democratic Party?
I wasn't in the Democrat Party, but what convinced me to leave the left was just that repeat misery. Just started feeling like, my gosh, how many things can you be miserable about? And then, of course, which I talk about in this book, Trump Dimondale, Michigan, that speech, Black America, what do you have to lose? It shocked me into a different reality. And I just wanted to experiment. I just wanted to go, okay, well, let me just follow this person and see where he's going with this. Like, maybe the media is lying about him. Maybe he's not this horrible racist. What are the chances that every single Republican since I've been born has been a racist? They're always smeared as racists. And I started digging and digging and digging. And when I found people like Larry Elder on the internet, when I found people like Thomas Sowell, they brought me forth into an awakening. And yeah, it completely changed my life. So I thank Trump, I thank Thomas Sowell, and I thank myself for having the courage to look and say, you know what, I had it wrong, because that takes a tremendous amount of humility. And a lot of times these raging leftists don't have the humility to admit that they're getting something wrong. So that's what I would say.
Being married to a fellow Englishman, does he take you down to the local pub for a pint and Sunday roast with Yorkshires?
Absolutely. So I have done the countryside. We spend quite a bit of time in the countryside, and Sunday roast is my favorite tradition that the English people have, because it's like Thanksgiving every Sunday. So you go to the pub and you just have an amazing meal on a Sunday. Not a pint for me, because I don't drink alcohol. I'm not a drinker. I've been a non-drinker for a long time, but I definitely am an eater. So I make up for it plenty. But yeah, the pub scene in England, it is what it is. You know, you go and you meet with his mates, and everybody's having a pint except for me, and it's glorious. I love it. I mean, there's nothing not to love about London and the English countryside. It's all beautiful. It's all very proper, except for the side of the road that they drive on. That's a bit confusing.
I'm Mexican American. My large family is full of Democrats. I'm one of just a handful of conservatives in the family. Why do you think blacks and Latinos fall so easily to the Democrat Party?
Because we are targeted by them. We are targeted by them. We are the people that they use the fear tactics on the most. They come to Hispanic Americans and Black Americans and say, if you don't vote, everything's going to go away, and these evil white racists are going to try to get you back on slave ships, and oh, they're going to build a wall, and they're saying they don't want any diversity here. So they dominate the argument with fear tactics, and fear tactics work. We know that. I mean, we saw the whole world change with coronavirus and masks and people being scared to see their family members. So fear is a very powerful tool that can manipulate people. And the Democrats have executed on fear and have tried to manipulate people for a very long time, and especially minorities. So that's the reason why you see that every single candidate that runs on the Democrat side talks to you about racism, about sexism, about misogyny. Those words are words that are meant to inspire fear into the hearts of minorities. So I think that that's the reason why so many minorities are strapped to the left until they wake up and they go, you know what? I don't want your fear tactics anymore. I'm ready to try something different. And that's what I've done. Guys, quick break. Not a break, but like a quick interruption of the question and answer segment to tell you my book is still number 2. We need to change it. So go buy Blackout. I want to be the number 1 book in the country. We cannot allow, first off, Bob Woodward is not as cute as me on his book. I don't think this is what Bob would look like. This is adorable. You know, you got me, you got my books like this right here. And for whatever reason, are we really going to let hate be bigger than love? His book is called Rage. That's so angry. That's so horrible. Go, if you buy the book right now, head to premiercollectibles.com/blackout or head to Amazon and buy the book right now. We can change this horrible circumstance. You guys are ruining my life. Please go buy the book. Okay, next question.
What is the biggest issue facing Black America today, and would it change if Biden wins?
I talk about that in my book, so I'm not going to spoil that. Well, I guess I can tell you I've said it on enough stages, but father absence is the biggest issue facing Black America today. And no, it would not change. If Joe Biden was elected, things would get 10 times worse. Joe Biden's already been in office for 8 years as a vice president, and he has been in office for much longer than that as a senator. I think he's had his chance to change things for Black America, and he failed to do it. He actually did do it, but it was for worse, not for better. So that is all I will say on that. Next question.
For people like me who are wondering how we can become more knowledgeable on politics and be able to distinguish the truth from the lies of it all, what advice do you have for us? Thanks. I love everything you do. Keep it up.
I would say my advice would be to just watch both sides. That's it. Educate yourself by watching, spend time and spend a full hour watching CNN, spend a full hour watching Fox News, and just assess yourself from a common sense basis. There is only one side of this equation that is angry and hateful and anti-American. And I think that it is hard to pretend that the two options aren't between people that love their country and people that hate perhaps Trump more than they love their country. People condoning protesting and looting as a way to express yourself if you're upset about political circumstances. At the same time that they're telling other people that if they want to open their businesses, they're horrible, terrible human beings. We know what's happening in this country, and it's incredible to me that people can't fess up to that. And as I said, the main ingredient in that is humility. Have humility. Have the patience and the willingness to admit that you may have gotten some things wrong, because I definitely had to have a little pie on my face when I realized that my whole life I had gotten it wrong about conservatives. I had gotten it wrong about Republicans. I had gotten it wrong specifically about Black Republicans. And I was willing to have a little egg on my face. You know, I was willing to say, you know what, I'd rather be right than to keep up this ignorance and to keep up this game, because I'm too embarrassed of how long it's been, how long it's taken for me to realize the truth. Especially if you're young. I mean, we always get it wrong when we're young. That's why they have that famed expression of if you're not a liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart. If you're not a conservative when you die, you don't have a brain. So I will say this, I was a liberal when I was young, so I had a heart, and I will definitively be a conservative when I die. So it checks out. I definitely have a brain. There's a lot going on, tons of ways to engage, but listen to both sides carefully, and just when you walk away from that discussion, how did you feel? You know what I mean? And that's the most important thing. Like if you feel angry and like you want to burn down society, maybe you're watching the wrong thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, love you too. I'm going to read some of these comments in the Facebook chat. Getting this book, get it now, because Bob Woodward is #1 and not my book. So if you go and get it now, we can change things, guys. Take the time to go to premiercollectibles.com/blackout, and you can get a signed copy of the book, or you can just head to Amazon and get a normal copy of the book, unsigned. If you already have the book and you're going, oh, that's not fair, I wanted to get my copy signed, you can head to CandaceOwens.com, and you will see on a link that you can purchase a little insert that I will sign and then I will send out to you. So those are your options. And I really want to beat Bob Woodward and be the #1 book, so I hope you buy my book. I was trying to read a few more of these comments before we wrap up. Run for president. If you guys need me, perhaps I will. I'm proud of you. I have 3 kids. Thank you so much. Something about Marxism, but it's moving too fast. How do you feel? I'm sorry, I cannot read. My computer is quite far away, so I can't.
How do you stay so strong with so many against you?
How do you stay so strong? I'm a happy person, so people that are against me, that's their anger to hold. I don't feel the same way about them, and that's all I can say about that. I think positivity wins, light wins, God wins. I'm on the side of God, light, and positivity, so I definitely cannot lose. And that is it, guys. I think we are going to wrap this now because it's been 40 minutes live. Hopefully I have convinced you to help me get to #1, because I'm #2 in the country. I know we can do it, so I'll say one more time. You can this live signing was brought to you by Premier Collectibles. You can head to premiercollectibles.com/blackout and pick up a signed copy of the book. You can head to amazon.com if you just want to buy a regular copy of the book. And if you're thinking, I already have the book, how do I get a signed copy? You can head to CandaceOwens.com, buy the insert. I will sign it here at my home, and I will mail it to you, which is a really super solution so that everybody has an option to get a signed copy. Help me out. I want to be #1, although I am unbelievably amazed that I'm #2 in the country. The fact that I can say that is just incredible, and I owe that blessing to you guys. I would not be in this predicament if it weren't for every single one of you that has supported me on this journey, that has cheered me when they've jeered me, that has continued me to has encouraged me to keep going as I've been attacked by the left. So my hat is off to you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I could have never, ever, ever dreamed this. I wake up every day and my goal is to simply keep going. So thank you guys so much. Gina's going to end the live. Gina, come say hi again. They're going to think you're a random person. Gina, quick. Gina.
I'm real.
She's a real human being.
We're so close to number 1, guys. Make sure you sign on to premiercollectibles.com/blackout. You'll get a signed copy by the one and only Candace Owens, and we can't wait to see this book at number 1.
Yes, number 1. Do it. We're going to end this live, but do it. I want you, you know that commercial? I want you
Let's end it right there.
to buy my book.